by the Science Kid. Today I'm going to review The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate. Katherine Applegate's a very good author, and she has written many books, and I've read a lot of them. I've already done a review on Wish Tree, and this is The One and Only Bob, the sequel to The One and Only Ivan. And I've read the Endling series, which is about a lot of mystical animals and that type of thing. So, I like The One and Only Ivan because it's about painting and animals. And animals with big dreams. And they have to express themselves with paintings. And I really like that. So, Ivan is a gorilla. Here's that gorilla. And this is Ruby, who is an elephant. And Ivan wants to protect Ruby because she came from a circus and a lot of bad things happened to her. But he wants Ruby to go to a better place. And he wants Ruby to go to a zoo. But obviously he can't talk. He's a gorilla. So he uses paintings to show what he wants. And then this girl named Julia understands, and then people understand that this gorilla, this elephant, all these animals, they don't like that they have to be stuck in a cage. And then they take signs and they go and they do protests and marches. Ivan and Ruby, they get transferred to a zoo. And then in the sequel, which is also another thing about it, because you read it and you're like, oh, it's over. And then you're like, ooh, there's a sequel. And in the sequel, it continues, but from a different perspective. From the perspective of a dog named Bob, who lived in Ivan's cage, like Ivan's domain cage at the mall. And this one's from the perspective of Ivan. Now let's take a deeper look at the plot. Ivan is a gorilla. And there's a sign, and he lives in a mall. And he lives in a cage. He doesn't really like that cage. But there's this girl who gives him supplies, and he gets to paint or draw. Now one day, he gets paint. Now, he likes to draw because in the jungle where he belongs, he would get mud and paint it on his mom's back. And he liked painting. So, the paint is more like the mud he put on his mom's back. And he draws everything. He draws handprints. He draws hearts. He draws bananas. He draws anything. He draws tires. He draws anything he sees in his cage, which he calls his domain, because he doesn't like calling it a cage. Then one day he sees the sign that says, "The One and Only Ivan, Mighty Silverback, come visit our mall," or something like that. And he reads it, and he sees the word home in it. And then he gets out a bunch of paper, makes it a square, and he, with his finger paint, he goes Home, and he writes home. Then he shoves it onto his thing where he takes the stuffing out because he doesn't want anyone to see his stuffy that he takes the stuffing out and puts the papers in. And he takes it out, and at some point he shows the girl named Julia, who's an artist, and she's the one who gave him the paints. And he thinks that she will understand. And under home, he draws a picture. picture of lush forest and zoo sign because and so at first he lived with an elephant named Stella, which is big and used to be a circus elephant. Then comes this little elephant named Ruby. And Ruby's lonely and sad and not well fed, and she came from a circus too, but she didn't like that circus at all. So they take Stella and they take Ruby, and Stella takes care of Ruby. Then, Stella dies. But before Stella dies, Ivan promises Stella that he will make sure that Ruby is safe and take care of Ruby. And then he wants Ruby to go to a zoo, which is better, more wide, and better for her than an elephant, which is huge, in a cage, which is not always huge. And so she is not very comfortable. And the place where he wants Ruby to be. So then he gives it to Julia, and Julia understands. And they do this big process, and then everyone notices, and everyone wants Ivan and Stella to go to the zoo. Ivan and Ruby, to go to the zoo. And they start carrying signs, and there starts being big protests. Signs that say, "Save Ruby," and "Save Ivan." And there's even signs of a gorilla hugging an elephant, which is kind of weird, but anyway, they get to a zoo, and Ivan gets to be with other gorillas, and Ruby gets to be with other elephants. And then in the sequel, it continues, and there's more to it. But that's from the perspective of Bob, who is a little dog who runs around in Ivan's old domain, or cage. Next time, I'll do the sequel, and that is the one and only Bob. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time on a Am I the Silence Kid video.